Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Work in Progress Conversation series, where we share bite-sized insights into the evolving landscape of youth employment. The series is produced by the Solutions for Youth Employment team at the World Bank. In the first set of episodes, we focus on the private sector, where we interview leaders from companies in various industries in order to gain insights into skills and employment trends, as well as showcase innovative initiatives and best practices for youth employment. Today, we are joined by Bettina Schaller, who heads the Group Public Affairs at the Adecco Group and is the president of the World Employment Confederation. Bettina, fantastic to have you with us today. Let's dive straight into our conversation. Oh, sorry.
It is my pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. So, given your experience and role as a leader in the private sector, what are some of the major global trends you're seeing in today's job market?
Listen, thank you so much for the invitation, of course, and a big kudos to the World Bank and particularly to you and the team on the Solutions for Youth Employment for having us share our expertise and our insights. And I guess you start with the easy question, right? Which is what is happening out there in labor markets. Interestingly enough, and the moment we're having this conversation is, of course, somewhere in the middle of the year 2024, which is the big year of the elections, of countries and populations that are going to the polls to re-elect their political leaders, which also means that they are reshuffling the way that labor markets are supposed to look in their own countries. So for me, one of the big immediate trends at this moment in time that we see, and it's also a trend that will have lasting effects for the coming years, is that politics play a huge part in labor markets and that those party beliefs and those party politics will be reflected in how labor markets and labor market policies look. Now, for our listeners, depending on where you come from, this might seem a bit abstract and a bit strange almost, but I can tell you that there is a difference depending on whether a government is more, protectionist, more populist, more liberal, whether there is a strong social or socialist agenda, whether, of course, there is more of, business-friendly agenda. So that as a first trend. The second big trend that I see, and that is really one that dominates half of the world in our days, that is scarcity. It's the fact that there are not enough workers for the jobs, or in other words, obviously the demand is bigger than the supply. There's various reasons for that, demography, the whole skills mismatch. But fact is that in about half of the world, labor markets are driven these days by the candidates, by the workers themselves, which is a huge trend and is a huge shift if we look at it with a historic lens as well. And I can tell you that alone would be an entire session, and I'm sure you're asking other experts about the effects of that. Let me talk about a third trend that I see in labor markets today, and that is the focus on well-being and on health. That is something that 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, and obviously COVID had a big role to play in that, that wasn't such a reality. And so today, for organizations, for employers, it is crucial to also integrate, first of all, workplace-related measures that guarantee safety, well-being, and of course, health in the workplace. But that also relates to just the approach to digital, for example, and how the new ways of working are affecting people and their work. And on the other hand, the same way, workers today have different expectations towards the workplace when it comes to health and safety. So that is the third trend. And the last trend, and I'll be very short on this one because, again, it's a big one, and so much could be said. Well, that's obviously the impact of AI and digital from all its facets on the labor market. Already now, the labor market is a completely different place, either because of how AI has impacted the way we work, the tools that we use, our own efficiency, our productivity, and again, expectations from organizations that are themselves faced with AI and digital, that are using AI and digital, have changed, and all of that has a big impact on the labor market. So 4 trends: politics, the elections, scarcity, the whole health and well-being, and AI and digital.
Thank you for the super comprehensive picture of the labor market, Bettina. This sounds like such an intricate mix of so many, I guess, opportunities on the one hand, but also, I guess, a lot of insecurities, right, about what the future might bring to a certain extent. Maybe to make things, to go into more concrete terms, and I think the last point that you mentioned, the impact of AI and digital, is the perfect transition into my next question. How is the demand for skills changing in this context? What are private sector companies looking for when hiring young people? And perhaps when we talk about the demand for skills, perhaps we can focus more on low and middle income countries.
Let me try to address that one, because this question is the one $1,000,000 question. If we're able to solve that one, then we're going to be so much closer to, well, more people in the labor market, and obviously more productivity, but also I would say obviously direction for young people, and in any case any worker in the labor market that's looking to navigate, because we all know indeed, and we know the statistics, a great one these days is that within 4 years, 30% of everybody's skills are obsolete, right? So now obviously the natural question is, well, why should I actually still engage in learning if that skill is going to be obsolete, or which skill exactly? So that's why you asked the question, obviously. And the way we approach it at the Adecco Group is, amongst others, that we look at the skills that are in demand in job advertisements right now. And so there, what we have to do is we have to differentiate a bit, because there's obviously a different demand of skills depending on the occupational group. What I have for you, and I'll be a little bit quick, right? And to be very honest, I'm going to look at the results I've got on my screen and my paper here. So what we have is the following. So first of all, if we look at people in business and administration, the top skills that are required today are leadership and motivation, supervising a team, applying entrepreneurial and financial skills, guiding others, and planning and organizing. And I don't know about you, but I thought that was actually quite interesting and unexpected when I saw that. It obviously shows, and this is a trend, and I'm going to make this as a first generalization, one of the skills that we require most is actually people skills in the terms of leadership and in the terms of being able to work independently. It seems that in today's world, there is this expectation that people are able to, well, pick up what is being put on their table, and the likelihood that you're going to get guidance by others as you have to execute the tasks is very small. And so anybody in that business and administrative field has to show that high level of independence. I think this is important also for young people, independently of where they are in the world, because it will impact their expectations as well on how, again, they will be coached and guided. I think it's a big one, because personally, I wish for all the young people to be, again, coached and guided, but the reality, as we see, shows us that this might actually not always be the case. Now, obviously, again, what are the 5 skills most in demand for healthcare specialists? Those are going to look different, aren't they? There, it has to be professional skills first, right? You're in the healthcare business, so it's anything to do with medicine and care. Guess what? The second skill, leadership and motivation. Then there's social skills. Fourth skill, maintaining a positive attitude. So again, this is in job advertisements for people who are being asked to enter the healthcare industry. They are expected to maintain a positive attitude. Doesn't that say so much, maybe as well, about the healthcare industry and about probably how difficult the environment is? And so you as a, again, young person or person entering or moving and navigating that space need to approach working in that space. And then the last skill here is flexibility, another interesting one that I think we see quite often. Let me move maybe to one or two more examples, and now we get to that AI and digital and technical space. So we've got the skills most in demand for technical engineers and similar specialists. Here, again, it's the technical programming, right? Those skills that you need to have. Interesting, second skill required here is compliance. Compliance with legal and guidelines. The space of technology is one which is so regulated because there are so many regulatory requirements on how you apply the technology, that if you enter that space, you need to not only be that tech geek, but you need to be also very aware of what is legal, what is compliant as you are building and moving along. And from a personal perspective, since at the Adecco Group, I have the pleasure of chairing the Responsible AI Committee, I can tell you that this mindset of how to apply responsible AI, so ethical, safe, transparent instruments as you are building the AI systems is absolutely key these days. Maybe just to anticipate, this is still a young field when it comes to responsible AI, and we are still learning, of course. So I think when we're asking the question, which we are now, about the skills, it's also about the mindset that you bring and the openness to have those skills. And by the way, you asked me about low income countries, and I know this is now not very specific, and I'd like to just, if you may allow me, make the point that these are actually skills that we see would be general, right, to low income and higher income countries. Let me just finish off again. The last group I want to mention is developers, analysts of software and IT applications. Again, that very special digital space. This is obviously also about user interfaces, software testing, requirement engineering, configuration management, programming languages. So this is more now about that geeky technical space, which probably says a lot about those who enter that space. And I think it's an interesting one for us as we think about the whole social skills piece that we always talk about, right? Let me leave it here, but as you see, the skills picture a very varied one. My advice is to look obviously at the industry that you're in as well, but overall, mainly when you deal with people and you will work in teams, then make sure that you've got those leadership skills. If you have them already as a young person as well, or in general, even better. And if not, then maybe focus on grooming those from an early age on.
Thank you, Bettina. So many insights here. What I take from what you just mentioned is perhaps one very important thing for anyone, regardless of the field, is that we're still talking to a certain extent, right, about certain transversal skills. So these kinds of social emotional skills and leadership skills that will be needed regardless of the sector, and regardless of how much we develop AI solutions to help improve our workplaces, right? So I think that's probably one of the most important things to keep in mind. And of course, when we dive deep into specific sectors, then we deal with more specificities as we go ahead. Now
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, and I know it's very unsatisfactory always to hear people, from the labor market, and I represent a company like the Adecco Group, which is a workforce solution specialist operating in so many countries and industries, and here I am, also just confirming that where we stand today in history. It's a matter of honing your personal transversal skills, and actually. Just the ability to communicate is absolutely key these days. Even if you are at home, depending on what kind of task you have in the world, you need to be able to then, well, showcase the result of what you worked on, and those communication skills are going to be key for you to move ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, perhaps let's take a step back from these discussions on global trends, and let's turn for a moment to your work at the Adecco Group. Can you perhaps tell us more about Adecco's mission regarding youth employment and share a couple of key initiatives, maybe also in low and middle income countries, if there are any that come to mind?
Thank you for this opportunity. And indeed, the Adecco Group is incredibly focused on providing work opportunities to anybody, but importantly to youth as well. Maybe just here on the definition of youth, I believe it goes up to 30 years of age, in some countries even a bit more. So clearly this is a wide bracket, and the way that we see the contribution is first on a very general level. It's the fact that one of the key issues for young people to enter work, and there's the chicken and the egg with the, do you have the experience? And obviously you don't, because you're not being given the experience. So this is about access to the labor market. And via our job opportunities that we have, and in many countries we have more vacancies, right, than we have actual candidates. So the skills element comes into play, but we have the job opportunities there. We have our clients who have tasked us with looking for the right candidate, and so we're the ones that are able then to establish that match and to establish the link. And that's why I think that role as an intermediary that we have between the demand and then obviously the supply that young people bring to the labor market is one that should not be underestimated, and that in many countries can be up to 40, if not 50% of the solutions that some private employment services companies deliver to the labor market. In our days, there's a lot of talk about skills-based hiring, which I'm sure you've discussed on this series already as well. What we see, though, is that many organizations and companies are not yet applying it because they don't quite know how to go about it. Our system is based still on certificates, it's based on titles, and this step of looking behind and deep diving on the skills, in that case also of young people who don't have all these years of work experience. So that activity of assessing is one that also private employment services companies, the Adecco Group, and notably our colleagues either at Adecco or at our company called LHH do on a daily basis. So it's about bringing to the surface the skills of young workers and of workers in general, so that they can then be applied and integrated into the labor market. I think that more and more, and here I've got a little bit of almost a call to make. What I see our role also these days, it's to actually reinforce the message to many employers that young people are important and valuable assets and workers, and that they should absolutely be considered, even though they might not have that experience. And it's not that easy. We actually, in general see a backlash these days. This is quite a recent phenomenon, and it's more on the broader ESG or diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda, but it includes young people as well. So there's a little bit of just a mindset here of, again, recognizing the value of young workers and young people, where we at the Adecco Group put a lot of emphasis on ensuring that that recognition is there. So we're almost founding member of the Global Apprenticeship Network, for example, that drives initiatives for young people. This is based on internships and traineeships and apprenticeships. The group per se operates in 60 countries, and some of them are medium income countries. And wherever possible, we will have initiatives, public-private, with partners, again, to provide those traineeships and internships and apprenticeships, and therefore create a pathway for young people into the labor market. And overall, again, we do whatever we can just to elevate the awareness of companies about the importance of young people in the labor market.
This is so much food for thought. And one thing that came to my mind when you were speaking was I absolutely love the call to action addressed to employers out there. That's probably crucial at the moment, where we're talking also around the world of issues including underemployment and unemployment of youth. So a lot of talent that goes unutilized, right, to its full potential. So that's key in my perspective.
It does. And I mean, with me, you have a representative of the private sector, and I know how difficult these times are right now. You know, every organization I know is transforming because of the digital revolution, because of what's happening in the green economy, because of, well, the overall economic situation and geopolitics. And so it's easy to say, well, you know, we revert back to what we know and we scrape programs that could involve access of young people to the labor market. Our call is, don't do that. This is the last place where you should shift your approach. If anything, this is the moment to bring in workers. I know it's easier said than done, but at the end of the day, people are your most important asset.
Absolutely. And since we address now one part of the audience, which is, you know, the potential employers out there, let's maybe also take care of the other part of the audience, hopefully all the young people out there listening in to this conversation. And how about we end this discussion with a message for them? So, you know, what career advice would you give to young people? And since you are yourself a successful woman, what would be the advice for a young woman especially?
Well, thank you for that, and you're right. Indeed, I can consider myself blessed, and I have no inhibition to say I just turned 50, and I feel like 50 is the new 30, which puts me back in the category, of course, that we're discussing. No, I'm obviously very respectful of I hope fantastic moment that young people find themselves in, either when they finish school or when they finish university and they're now looking to enter the workplace. And I'm actually here. I think I'm gonna, if you allow me, I'm gonna first, you know what, I'm gonna apologize here because I represent a company in the workforce solutions industry, which is recruiting companies. And I still hear too often that young people are not getting a reply from recruitment companies when they apply for jobs. And I just want to say I find it, I should say, unacceptable. Now, of course, this seems to be a practice in our days. And all I can share with you is that I'm one of those also in the company that is, you know, looking to work on ways so that replies can be given. I think there's nothing worse than if you've made applications and you're sincere about it, that you and then you don't receive a reply. But now I've gone a little bit off. I think the question that you asked, maybe what's hidden in this apology that I'm making is don't give up, right? I mean, if you're in a job search environment, don't let yourself get discouraged by that, and it's got nothing to do with you. It is the system, unfortunately, and know that there's people working on that system. It won't happen from one day to another, but there is. But now, that's actually not the advice that I wanted to give. My advice is, and I've been thinking long about this question, is I could say, well, lifelong learning and obviously be very open, and things will change along the way. I could say all of that, but I think what I'd like to share is the advice to build your village. And why I'm saying this is I can see how young people today obviously have huge communities online and on social media. And many young people live more of a fulfilled life almost on their iPhones or on whatever devices they have. This seems to be their entry into the world. And it could very well be in many countries that it is via your device that you also have the opening and the gate to your professional world then. And I think that's great, right? Absolutely. This is how the world is moving. And my advice is just make sure that that broader village that you need to build for yourself goes beyond the social village. So make sure that you invest in interactions. And if you're lucky and you have a family that loves you, use that and their friends. And as you build your professional future, don't hesitate to ask your family and their friends also about their experiences, and for them to support you and to again expand your network in that analog world as you are doing that in the virtual world. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope I can get across what I'm trying to say. But if I now look back the last 25 to 30 years, what helped me most in my advancement was that community that I've built for myself, and that allowed me to navigate through the various steps to find myself where I am today.
This is a great way to round off our conversation. And I think it also, brings together some of the things that we talked about. We talked about how important some of these social emotional skills, communication skills are nowadays. And that ties in so well with, building a lasting network and really using as much as possible the people around you, like really building this village, like you said. So thank you, Bettina, for joining us.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me again, and I wish everybody a great working life. I know it's not easy out there these days. It's really, it's a tough environment, and maybe one day I can come back and talk about the value of work, which I think is also shifting and is creating a lot of issues for many people and also for young people. But I wish everybody out there only the best and an exciting future.
Amazing. All the best also from our team here at Solutions for Youth Employment. Our work in progress conversation series will continue, so stay tuned and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you, everyone, and until next time.